When Margaret retired from her job as a school librarian, she thought life would finally slow down in a way that felt comforting. She imagined mornings with tea, afternoons with novels, and evenings sitting by the window as the sun faded. Yet within months, the silence in her house grew heavy, like dust settling on untouched shelves. For decades, the library had been filled with the sound of children's voices, the shuffle of books, the small chaos of learning. Now, the absence of those sounds pressed against her. She noticed something else too. The world outside was moving faster than she could keep up with. Even her local library, the place she once guided, had introduced self-checkout machines and online catalogs. Young students typed effortlessly on laptops while she struggled with the simplest features of her phone. Margaret often sat at her kitchen table, staring at the screen, afraid to press the wrong button, as if technology itself might punish her for being late to understand it. What unsettled her most was regret. Long ago, when computers were first finding their way into homes, she had been fascinated. She remembered standing in front of a glowing screen at a school seminar, feeling something spark inside her. But she had put that curiosity away, telling herself she was too busy, that learning it wasn't necessary for her work. Now, at 60, those choices felt like locked doors she had thrown away the keys to. Loneliness deepened those thoughts. Her friends spent their days tending gardens, traveling, or caring for grandchildren. She too had a grandson, Daniel, but he was grown, busy with his job in the city as a software developer. When he visited, he often talked about coding, about building things with lines of logic and creativity. Margaret listened politely, though inside she felt like he was describing another language, one she would never understand. At night, lying awake, she wondered if this was what the rest of her life would be, days filled with silence, punctuated by moments of longing for something she had missed. The thought that life had passed her by settled on her chest like a weight she couldn't lift. Yet, as often happens, change arrived quietly, without warning. One weekend visit, Daniel placed his laptop in front of her and said gently that he wanted to show her something simple. Margaret hesitated, her hands cold against the table, but inside her, a spark flickered, the same spark she had felt decades ago, still alive, waiting. Daniel had a way of speaking about technology that made it sound less like a machine and more like art. He told Margaret that coding was simply giving instructions to a computer, much like giving a recipe to a friend who had never cooked before. She chuckled nervously, but her heart beat faster. The idea that she might learn something so foreign at her age seemed almost laughable. Still, Daniel's encouragement felt different. He wasn't pressuring her. He treated her not as someone too old, but as someone capable. That alone stirred something deep within her. He opened a text editor, typed a few words, and showed her how the computer responded. Lines of symbols appeared, mysterious but also magical. For the first time, Margaret felt not fear but curiosity. Her first attempts were clumsy. She mistyped commands, forgot where to put brackets, and stared at error messages that felt like doors slamming in her face. More than once, she sighed, pushing the laptop away. She told Daniel she was too old, that her brain wasn't built for this anymore. He only smiled and reminded her of the countless students she had once guided in reading, many of whom had struggled just as she was now. If they could learn, he said, so could she. The comparison touched her. She remembered children sounding out words slowly, hesitating over sentences, until one day the meaning finally clicked. She had always believed in their ability to grow, no matter how uncertain they felt in the beginning. Could she offer herself the same belief? Slowly, she tried again. She learned how to write simple instructions that made the computer respond. The first time she managed to make a small window pop up on the screen, her eyes widened with the delight of a child. It wasn't much, just a message saying hello, world, but it felt like she had unlocked a secret doorway. The days that followed were not without struggle. Margaret often wrestled with frustration, feeling clumsy and embarrassed when Daniel corrected her mistakes. Sometimes the weight of self-doubt nearly convinced her to give up. But then there were moments, small victories that lifted her spirit. The joy of solving a problem, the satisfaction of seeing something she created come alive on the screen, reminded her that she was capable of learning, even now. In the quiet of her home, she began practicing on her own, notebooks filled with scribbled instructions and corrections. What once felt like a locked door now seemed to be opening, slowly but surely. And though she didn't realize it yet, she was beginning to walk into a new chapter of her life. guided not only by her grandson's patience, but also by a courage she thought she had lost. Weeks turned into months, and Margaret's confidence began to grow, though the path was anything but smooth. She faced countless setbacks, programs that refused to run, errors she couldn't understand. Hours spent staring at a blank screen, wondering if she had made a mistake by starting at all. Sometimes tears welled in her eyes, not only from frustration but from the old voice inside her that whispered she was too late, that she should have accepted her quiet retirement instead of chasing something so difficult. But each time that voice grew louder, Margaret remembered the children she once taught. She remembered their trembling voices as they stumbled over words, their eyes lighting up when they finally understood. If she had believed in them, why should she not believe in herself? Slowly, that memory became her strength. Her grandson remained her steady guide, but something inside her shifted. She no longer wanted to rely on him for every answer. She began joining online coding forums, shyly posting questions and receiving encouragement from strangers half her age. At first, she felt out of place, but over time she realized that in the language of code, age disappeared. Everyone was just a learner, just a creator, sharing the same struggle of turning logic into something meaningful. Then came the project that changed everything. Margaret wanted to give back to her community, and she thought of the local library, the place where her heart had always belonged. She decided to build a simple program that could help organize borrowed books for neighborhood readers who still preferred handwritten logs over digital systems. It was nothing advanced, just a basic tool, but to her, it was monumental. She poured her evenings into the work, failing over and over, until finally, the program ran smoothly. When she showed it to Daniel, her hands trembled. His proud smile and the words that followed telling her she had built something real brought tears to her eyes. It wasn't just the code on the screen. It was proof that she had broken through years of self-doubt. When the library staff tried her program and praised how helpful it was, Margaret felt something awaken inside her. Not only had she learned coding at 60, but she had also found a new purpose. She realized that growth never truly ends, that passion doesn't expire with age. What she had gained was more than knowledge of coding, it was a rediscovery of herself. Margaret Hess' story leaves behind a gentle truth. The doors we think are locked are often waiting for us to turn the handle, and sometimes all it takes is courage, a little patience, and the belief that it is never too late to start again. Life often convinces us that time has already made its decisions for us, that certain dreams belong only to the young. But Margaret's journey reminds us that courage can awaken at any age, and that learning is not bound by numbers on a calendar. Her story is a mirror for anyone who has ever thought it was too late to begin again. If her steps into coding at 60 brought new meaning, then perhaps the doors you've left closed are waiting to. If this story touched you, share it, leave your thoughts below, and subscribe for more inspiring tales.